Welcome to episode 40 of our series on the surnames of Appalachia and the American South. Each of the names that we'll examine today was requested by members of our YouTube community. You might note that I discuss surnames in the order that I received them, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve as a resource for you. I also appreciate your patience as I make my way through the names still on our list. I'm posting an email address to the Vantage Point in the description, so you can request a surname catalog if you want one. It contains all the family names that we've covered so far up through this week. Please make surname requests in the comments section so other viewers can see what might be coming up soon. That's always helpful to everybody because we always want to know. Some of you have asked about DNA ethnicity tests. I'm thinking about doing a short video that compares ancestry DNA to family tree DNA. Let me know in the comments section if you'd be interested in seeing an episode on that topic. I'd appreciate it. Today on the Vantage Point, we'll be talking about 10 Appalachian and Southern surnames. They'll take us from Butcher Holler, Kentucky to England, France, Germany, Ireland, Scandinavia, Scotland, and Wales. I hope you'll join me. Let's get started. Number 1, Purdle. When I received the request for Purdle, I didn't recall a movie star or politician. Rather, I remembered a person that I wrote about in my book, The Forces of Nature, Our Quest to Conquer the Planet. In March 1925, a man named C.E. Purdle was passing through Annapolis, Missouri, when the deadliest tornado in world history nearly wiped out the town. Mr. Purdle was knocked unconscious, but when he awoke, he helped rescue people trapped under the timbers and other debris. He was both a victim and a hero. I described his hair-raising experience along with the entire tragic event in The Forces of Nature and also a YouTube video titled Tri-State Tornado of 1925, America's Deadliest Twister. It's actually the world's deadliest twister. At any rate, Mr. Purdle's paternal line is most likely an anglicized or Americanized version of the German surname Burkle. It makes sense that Mr. Purdle would be in Missouri because from 1832 onward, many Germans settled in the Show Me State. Number 2, Rowe. When I received this request, I couldn't help but be reminded of Mike Rowe, the fellow who highlighted modern occupations that he called dirty jobs. This English surname was given to someone who lived near a hedgerow. Speaking of doing jobs, it's amazing how our ancestors had a deep understanding of jobs performed by living fences that we call hedgerows. They provide wind protection, habitats for little creatures, and beautify our landscapes while increasing property values. It took the Dust Bowl, though, to reawaken the value of natural windbreaks. In the 1930s, FDR came up with a plan to plant living fences in the Great Plains of the United States to help control windborne erosion. Today they're commonplace. But they often feature tree species with deep roots because there wasn't much water out there. Like many English names, Rowe didn't stay in the land of the Angles. Rowe has been in Scottish records since 1200. One of the leading ministers of the Scottish Reformation was Reverend John Rowe. In Ireland, though, it's sometimes called or spelled R-O-E and can have multiple origins. For instance, it's sometimes used as a synonym for this Gaelic surname. It can also be used as an anglicized expression of red. Rowe doesn't appear among the common surnames in Wales, so I think we would need a paper trail to locate the origin of your line of Rowe. Number 3, Collinsworth. This English surname most likely originated in Northumbria, England, as an alternate form of the locational name Collingswood. This most likely is the case because Harrison, McIsaac, and Black don't list Collinsworth in their books. Clearly, you would need a paper trail to identify the origin of your line of Collinsworth. I'm about 80% convinced that your search would lead to Northern England and Northumbria specifically. If you have a Y chromosome in one of the I haplogroups, my confidence level would rise to 95%. That's because of the heavy settlement of Vikings in that region. Number 4, Rourke. This Irish name appears as in Gaelic. It's not of Norse origin, even though it shares a similar spelling to a Norse personal name. Irish exiles not only introduced the name to America, some bearers of the name went to Poland and further east to Russia. If no one in your family tree spoke a Slavic language, and there was no hanky-panky along the way, I think you can be rest assured that they came from Ireland. Number 5, McReynolds. Reynolds was originally a tectonic surname from Northern Europe. It was a vocalized form of Reginald. It arrived in the Isles before the 12th century. McReynolds is different though. The MC prefix tells me that the line was most likely derived in Ireland as a form of McRannel. In Ulster, McReynolds and Reynolds seem to have displaced the older McRannel. I'm satisfied that McReynolds is an Irish surname. Number 6, Gilbert. When you hear or read the name Gilbert, do you think of Melissa Half-Pint Gilbert from the Little House on the Prairie? I'm afraid I do. I don't know what it says about me, but anyway. At any rate, this ancient surname was originally a personal name found among the Anglo-Saxons. It meant bright hostage. I'm not sure if the early Gilberts had gleaming white teeth, face, or were just smart. You might recall that St. Patrick was a bright hostage and slave too. Gilbert has been in Ireland for more than 5 centuries, and since the 1700s, it's been common in 5 counties. Black says it's been in Scotland since the 13th century. Its early arrival in the Bonnie Land was due to the spelling similarity to the Scottish name Gilbride. Please note that Gilbert and Gilbride don't share any other common traits. They're not the same name. At the end of the day, I think you'll need a paper trail to locate the precise location of your line of origin. Number 7, Perky. Folks, I looked high and low for the origin of this surname. Online sources disagree with each other and they're not much help. None of my surname books, including those on Welsh and German surnames, contain information on either spelling. As a result, I'm not 100% confident in what the sources claim about Perky. Nevertheless, here's what I found. Ancestry.com claims that Perky is a version of the German name Berkey. House of Frames claims Perky entered England as a Norman French name. My literature again on German names does not list either spelling. Harrison, who is solid on Norman names in England, doesn't list it either. Number 8, Baguette. The ET on the end of Baguette tells me right off the bat that this is a French surname. Why, might you ask? Well, the ET suffix is a French diminutive, so baguette means little bag. Of course, baguette is an elongated type of French bread. It's an iconic culinary feature of French culture. The surname arrived in the Isles of the Normans in the 12th century. As is the case with many Normans, they acquired lands in various parts of Great Britain and later in Ireland. In 1235, Adam de Baguette was a burgess in Scotland and later held the office of sheriff. At about the same time, folks named Baguette settled in the Dublin area in Ireland. You might note that the area around Dublin is called the Pale. If you're reading any genealogical stuff and you see that, you'll know where it came from. As with several other names, they may have originated linguistically in one region or country, but over time, some moved away and married into other populations. Once settled in, they assimilated into those cultures, a process that we call acculturation. If you're a Baguette and wonder what origin to assign your surname, it's French, but culturally, your folks may have been Scottish, English, or Irish. I think you'll need a paper trail and be looking for variations in name spellings along the way. I've seen members of one family spell their name several different ways in one rural North Carolina cemetery, and changes in pronunciation can also occur, so watch out. Number 9, Gilliand. When I received the request for Gilliand, I was confident that it would lead me to England, but it didn't. Instead, I first found it in Ireland, specifically East Ulster. In Ulster, it's also called McGeeland. According to McGlysick, the surname is an East Ulster expression of McClellan. It's also sometimes shortened to Gillan. Please note that people with the name Gillan may not be descended from Gilliand at all. Other Irish names like Gilligan were sometimes shortened to Gillan. Indeed, your ancestors might well be from Scotland. If you're a fan of pre-woke Guardians of the Galaxy, you might note that a Scottish actress named Karen Gillan plays the character Nebula. As it turns out, Black claims that Gillian, without the D, is a Scottish surname that was shortened to Gillan. At the end of the day, I think we can call Gilliand an Irish, Scots-Irish, or Scottish surname, depending on where your paper trail leads. Number 10, Webb. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Coal Miner's Daughter. If you saw it, you would have heard the name Webb mentioned several times. Many of you already know that Webb is Loretta Lynn's maiden name. The scenes in which Doolittle pleads with Mr. and Mrs. Webb to give him permission to marry Loretta are pretty funny, really. I mean, they were laying in bed and stuff. It was kind of weird. But at any rate, Webb is an Old English occupational name for a weaver. That was an apt name because weavers spun thread. Folks named Webb settled in and around Dublin and Belfast in the 17th century, but it's not found among the common surnames in Scotland or Wales. I'm putting it down as an English or Anglo-Irish surname. Well, folks, that's about all I have for you today. I hope you got something meaningful out of our discussion. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help. I invite you to check out all the videos on the Vantage Point. In addition to the Surnames of Appalachia and the South series, they cover a wide range of topics, including one on the deadliest tornado in history that I mentioned a few minutes ago. I'll post a link to it in the description so you can easily find it. If the man warrants it, I'll be back soon with another episode on the Surnames of Appalachia and the American South. I hope to see you then. God bless you and yours. Bye-bye.